Okay, so tonight we're going to take a trip to Japan. That's the power of the virtual world. We can just go anywhere. And we're going to try to go find some snow monsters. So my agenda is very simple. I'm going to explain where we can find them. And then we need to talk about the science, what they actually are. Because you probably guessed already that they're not actual snow monsters. And then I can give you a few tips from how to actually get as close as possible to a snow monster and take any kind of picture, touch them, or whatever you may want to do. So as we mentioned, you can find them in Japan. And more specifically, it's going to be in Yamagata prefecture, which is one of the countless Japanese prefecture. And so I've tried to show with the star here where it is on the map. And if you know the map of Japan, you would have another island at the top, the northern island, and then you have more at the south. But I've just cut so that we're able to zoom in and see maybe the names of the cities. So you're looking at the main island of Japan, Honshu, and Tokyo is here, which if you're coming from the United States, it is very fair to assume that you're going to be landing in Tokyo. And from there, you could take either the train or you can just rent a car and drive. And if you go 4 or 5 hours north, that's where you get to Yamagata prefecture, and more specifically to Zao Onsen ski resort. So it's a ski resort, and onsen in Japanese means hot spring. So it's also a hot spring resort. So some people would go there to ski. Some people would go there just to enjoy the hot spring and spend some time at the spa. And because it is a resort, it's very easy to get there. You're going to have plenty of lodging, plenty of restaurant, plenty of equipment you can rent, whatnot, and people who speak English. So even for non-Japanese, it's a very easy to get location and very good destination for winter vacation. So let's dive into the science of the snow monster. You have probably guessed by looking at my picture that we're talking about snow on trees or bushes, right? However, my first reaction when I went to Zao is, if it's just snow on trees, how come does that only happen specifically in Zao? And that's what we're going to be explaining here. So if you make the trip to Japan and you go on a quest to find the snow monsters, you need to know that they are actually called juhyo in Japanese. And when you look at the translation, it literally means soft rime. And the reason the snow monster forms only in Zao is due to the very unique condition of the winter. So you know that not all winters are the same. We already know that if you go east of here, you have states in the United States that get more snow and not as cold temperature. Here we get all the cold, but not as much the snow. So, and you remember maybe from your elementary school classes that to get snow, you need some moisture, you need very specific temperature, and then that all falls down. So in Japan, we got very, very large amount of snow. And we're talking like meters and meters of snow. I remember the first time I went skiing in Japan, it said at the bottom, today's condition, you have 4 meters of snow. And I was texting my family back in France, but like, yeah, I'm skiing on 4 meters of snow. And they were like, no way. You must have misread. It must be 40 centimeters because there's just no way you would get 4 meters of snow. So, and that was actually true. We get meters and meters of snow in Japan. It's also a very humid country. And I know in Minnesota, people do complain about humidity. I can tell you it's another level. It's way more humid. And you know, in Southeast Asia, they get a lot of the monsoon. And again, here, sometimes people talk about monsoon as a very rainy day. No, the monsoon is actually a rainy season. in Japan from June to July, you spend a month and a half of rain, rain, rain every single day. And that's why in Southeast Asia, that's where they produce so much rice, because rice are in those basically water fields. And that humid climate is the same in the winter. So we just have snow falling like every day. I remember sometime waking up in the morning and we have 1 meter of snow that just fell overnight. So you can imagine how much fun we have shoveling in the morning. And it's also very humid in that the temperature don't get too cold, and very quickly it stops melting. And so anyway, to go back to Zao, you have this very unique condition of a large amount of snow. And since you are in a high elevation where you're closer to the clouds, the pretty high humidity. And to that, you add cold temperature. So the snow starts sticking together. And then you add some very, very strong winds that are always blowing from the west. And then you get that shrimp tail snow formation that you can see in this picture at the bottom. That is what makes the snow monster. That's really you can even see how the wind has formed the shrimp tail on those snow monsters. Now, I just explained that you get a lot of snow in Japan, it's humid anywhere in Japan, and you have a lot of wind anywhere in Japan. So why Zao? Well, the answer is Zao has the perfect trees to which, when those shrimp tail are forming, they attach perfectly to this tree, this fur, and they form the snow forest, the monster, because of their shape that's already kind of skinny and tall. So that explains why Zao is the only place you can find the snow monsters. So if you go to other places in Japan, you will still see some shrimp tail phenomena somewhere, but it would be very isolated. You might see one sign, like hiking sign, that has some shrimp tail on it. And Zao is just famous for the numbers of fir trees that are just all together and that have formed not only the monster, but that army of monsters that you have all around. And yes, as I explained, as I show in the first picture showing the map, Zao is in the very northern peninsula. So it's kind of in the narrow part of Japan. And that also explains why you get strong west wind, and 99% of the time it's going to be strong west wind. And the fact that the wind is always blowing from one direction really contributes to the shape forming, that obviously you wouldn't have that perfect one directional shape if you had the wind blowing from different directions like we can have here. So since we're talking about science, unfortunately, Zao is also a victim of climate change. And like anywhere else, you would have some colder winter and then it goes back up. So if you look on a small scale, I know when I was there, I was actually on a very cold winter and a year where we had a lot of snow. But really, when we're talking about climate change, you have to look at the bigger picture. And experts are already looking at the numbers, and over the past 50 years, they have seen a huge decrease in temperature, sorry about that, in amount of snow that falls on the mountain. And now the prediction is that in the next, by 2050, so that's what, 30 years, they might actually disappear. So if you're planning a trip to Japan, make sure you go sooner than later, because those poor snow monsters might not survive too long. So you've decided you want to go to Japan, you want to go to Zao, and you want to go see the snow monsters. There's a few different ways you can go and approach them. The easiest way is just to ride the gondola. and you go to the top. It's actually named Juhyo Field because it is really, you're going to land in the middle of that forest of fir, which becomes the snow monster forest in the winter. And winter is shorter in Japan. For the ski season, we're really talking January to mid-March. But if you go in that time range, they light up every Friday and Saturday evening during the weekends. And this is a picture that I did not take, but that's kind of showing you what they look like when you have the light up. So you would be riding the gondola while looking at those monsters around you. And once you get to the top, there's a little like coffee shop. You can get a hot cocoa while still looking at the snow monsters. And if you're brave enough, you can even go outside and get closer. Now, if you want to kind of get your own little private snow monster, this is the top of the gondola. From there, you can just get your snowshoes, get your backcountry skis if you have, and start climbing up the mountains. So that's what I did. That's where this photo is from. And you can see I got away from people. So I really got my own little snow monsters to take pictures at. And as you can see, like even beyond the snow monster, the view are just beautiful. So it's totally worth it. It's still very easy. I would say anyone can just do it. It's just a question of having the right equipment. And if you don't have the right equipment, this is pretty much as far as you can get just by foot. They groom a little bit of the trail at the top, so you can go and get your selfie there as well. But I would really recommend bring some snowshoes and just go make your own trace and go find your favorite snow monster. Then, of course, we talked about a ski resort, and the gondola is just landing you at the top of that mountain. So there are a few ski runs that run through the forest of snow monsters. Now, you get more people, so it's not as beautiful to get a picture. This is a picture I took, but there's people in the background. And as you can see on this picture, the lower you get, the less wind you get and the warmer the temperature gets. So the snow monsters are not as scary as they could be at the top, where they really look like monsters. Here you can already see some of the tree branches. So it's not the same, but it's still a very unique experience to be just skiing in the middle of monsters on your right, left, and all over. So that was actually very quick, but I hope my presentation really inspired you to visit Japan. As I said, I lived there for 8 years, so that was a wonderful experience. And you might wonder, okay, why should I visit Japan? And the snow monster might be just a weekend attraction. Well, as I said, Japan gets a lot of snow. And this is what I just Googled when I say how much does it snow in Japan. This is one of the image I get. And as I said, it's a lot. So if you're a skier, or even if you're a snowshoer, someone who like powder snow, you should really go to Japan because it snows so much. I remember, I obviously was going to ski every weekend when I was living there. There was even some Saturdays where we would arrive at the ski station and they would tell us, okay, those have been groomed, those have not been groomed yet because we just can't keep up. And so you actually get some powder experience while being in a ski resort. So it's really, if you love snow, go to Japan. You've probably seen the Olympics, Sapporo in 1972. I wasn't born, but I know it happened. And then Nagano more recently. You probably remember those images of the reporter like in the middle of a blizzard. That's Nagano. And lot of ski everywhere. Then Japan is a country where they have a hot spring everywhere. And there's the whole culture around hot springs. So I can easily say that wherever you go, there is going to be a hot spring that you can enter at the end of your day, whatever activity you do, and just relax in a very nice hot tub, hot spring bath. Okay, this is all I have, but I would be more than happy to take any question you have on the snow monster or about Japan as well.
What was the altitude that you were at in the top of the mountain?
I want to say 2,700 meter. No, it's about 2,000 meter. So I don't know how to convert in feet.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about snow monkeys. I've seen pictures at some of the hot springs have monkeys that go there. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so there are monkeys in Japan, and because Japan has a kind of an extreme weather, it gets really hot in the summer, but it does get really cold in the winter. We like to think that monkeys go to hot spring to warm themselves. It's actually kind of a scam. I've been to one of those hot spring where the guarantee that was that I could take a bath with those monkeys, and they actually put food in the bath to get the monkeys in the bath. So it's true that you have monkeys that are getting really cold in Japan. They spend their winter there, but they do find other ways to warm up. And diving in a hot tub would not have been their first choice if it wasn't for the food that is provided.
So Johanna, this is Mike. You had this chart showing you the different levels of rime in terms of wind speed and temperature.
Yes.
And you said the name of this was related to soft rime, which is a very light wind. But when you talked about the direction of snow, you called it a strong wind.
Yep.
So those seem to disagree with each other.
Absolutely. So the name is confusing and does not represent what it is. In scientific explanation of what the shrimp tail is, it's a soft rime that then turns into a hard rime. So it's halfway through. You do start with a soft rime, and it is necessary to get to that shape, but it's kind of misleading, and it's missing. It should really be soft and hard rime would be the actual name for it.
So what's your estimate of the actual speed when you call it a strong wind? What's that speed likely to be?
So it's not unusual to be on the top of the mountain during the day and have about 30 mile per hour wind, which I don't know the exact number, but overnight it gets, and that's really when they form. It obviously gets much stronger.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Do you have plans to go back to Japan anytime soon?
I would love to, yes. I still have friends, so I know I could have like a trip with just visiting people, and yes, it's definitely somewhere I would like to go. But as you can hear, I'm also from France, so I need to balance between going back to France, going to Japan, and so many places to go and not enough time.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Terry. You talked about how much snow they have and to show the downhill ski. How is Japan for cross-country skiing?
Not very good. Yeah, I'm sorry. I also asked around because from France, I kind of learned to do everything, right? And I like to alternate between downhill ski, cross-country ski, snowshoe. So I asked, like, where should I go to go cross-country skiing? Well, it might have been because there's too much snow, but I've only heard of one downhill ski area that had some groomed cross-country ski at the trails at the bottom. And I didn't go any further. There's probably some university trails, or if you're really like a hardcore skier, I'm sure there's ways to find trails. but it wasn't really as popular as the downhill.
Hi, Johanna. This is Joanne. Very close in names, and my European friends call me Johanna. I too lived in Japan, but I lived there for only 1 year. I taught English at a school there. And now I'm really disappointed because I thought I saw all of Japan during the year I was there. You know, I went to Okinawa, I went through every prefecture you could think of, but I never went to Hokkaido because I always thought, oh, that's like Minnesota. You know, it's Minnesota. I can see that in Minnesota. So when I saw your presentation, it's like I got a hold of my Japanese friends and said, hey, after COVID, guess who's coming back? Because I need to see now I need to go to Hokkaido and see that. But I was very lucky. I did go to Nagano, and it was a couple years after the Olympics. So I got to ski in Nagano. But it's just such a beautiful country. And I wish more people would go there and but man, it's a long flight.
It is, yeah. And the language is definitely a barrier. Like it is true that not a lot of Japanese speak English.
Yeah.
Now the one who do are gonna really try to help you. So I would encourage people to go, but I understand how kind of scary it could be to be somewhere where you wouldn't even be able to read what's written. So
yeah. Unless you have like a 40-year midlife crisis like I had, where you just run away.
That's what I did when I was 20, but probably the same
Did
idea.
you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was 40. Yeah. Okay, maybe a little older, but no. And I did meet up with a couple of my Japanese friends. I not to hog this time or whatever, but I did a Camino in Spain. Have you done that?
No, but I've done the Japanese equivalent in
Okay.
the Shikoku 88. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just did the Sarria to Santiago Camino in Spain. And so, when you have these European friends, they can just go to Europe, on the weekends or whatever, or even, my Asian friends, yeah, it's a little longer flight for them. But for us Americans, it's like, holy crap, we have to plan. It takes a lot longer for us to do these little excursions. But
yeah.
So where did you live in Japan?
So I was in Kanazawa, which is about here. So kind of on the west side.
Okay, so pointer. Oh, you were by Tortoli?
By Toyama?
No, that's down farther. Sorry. Okay, so take your pointer and go all the way down to like Kobe. I was down in Osaka, which is north of, in Himeji, which is south of Osaka. So I was down in that area. But I thought you were in Tortoli. You can see it. It's a little on the upper coast there. They actually have a sand on the beach, of course, but they have camels. So yeah. Japan is just so interesting. It's just there's so much to see and so much to experience. And the people there are so kind and so they just want you to enjoy their country. Yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah.
I was wondering how big Japan is compared to, like Minnesota or, and then I was also wondering, are the seasons the same everywhere in Japan? And when is their winter and like when is their summer?
So Japan is also on the northern hemisphere, so we have the same season. They are very well marked, in my opinion, even more than Minnesota. So winter is winter with all the snow that I described, but as I said, it's really January to March. March is going to come, temperature is going to be too warm, and that's going to turn into rain. Spring, you've probably seen pictures of the cherry blossom, and that's pretty much anywhere in Japan. So that's a very beautiful like spring with all the flowers. The cherry blossom are the one you're going to see picture of, but you also have apple trees, a peach. All the flowers are really blossoming in spring. Summer is really hot and humid. You feel like you're in, if you've been to Indonesia, it's kind of the same climate, like very jungle type of climate because it's so humid. And the fall comes and you get the beautiful fall colors. I would say even better than what we have here or what you have like up north. That would be what I would compare it to. How big it is, so when I was in Japan, I was working in a Japanese company that didn't give me a lot of vacation. So I visited Japan, everything was on weekend trips. I would take maybe 1 day or two and just do a bigger weekend, but I drove everywhere. And for example, from where I was to Zao, that's a 6 hours drive. From Tokyo, this is only 5 hours. So to go from the middle of the country to pretty much up north is the same you would go from Rochester to Grand Marais. So you're really looking at maybe the equivalent of 2-3 American states together. So it's really easy to just travel everywhere. And yeah. Now there are other islands. So this is only showing the main island, but you also have this Shikoku Island, and you have Kyushu here. You would have Okinawa, even more that you have to fly because it's Japanese, but it's not connected. And then you have Hokkaido here at the north. So to visit different islands, you kind of have to plan. The Shikoku and Kyushu, you can just drive. You can see it's all connected. That's about maybe 10 hours from Tokyo. So it's still very doable on a long weekend.
With all the snow, were you worried about avalanche?
Yes. And it's a big part of what I was doing in Japan. I was doing a lot of avalanche training, and I was actually on the search and rescue team. We needed to have a search and rescue team at each ski station. And I had the ski station I was volunteering at, we had a snowboarder die because we wanted to go off-piste. And yes, it is a huge risk. It's not, I mean, it's part of nature, but it's really something that we also try to educate people. You know, well, people who do backcountry ski usually have all the equipment, and all the accidents that we see are usually people who come to the ski to just do downhill ski, think that they want to do something more difficult and go to do their own powder trace. And that's when they get into accident because they don't have all the training and equipment that the backcountry skiers have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you get roofs that collapse under the weight of all of that snow, like that photo that you showed?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's also another issue because people climb on the roof to get the snow off and they fall, and there are accidents this way as well. And here I see a lot of, volunteering opportunities of going to shovel someone's driveway. In Japan, they're asking volunteers to go to older people's house and do the roof clearing. You need to really clear it regularly or it would collapse.
Do you happen to know if this area has been featured in a National Geographic film or as background landscape for any feature films?
That's a good question. Not that I know of. And I did some Google search to find extra photos that I didn't have, and I didn't see any major documentary in English. So I would say no, but maybe that requires more research.
Okay.
That would be a good topic. I agree.
Very, very fascinating presentation. I had no idea what the snow monsters were going to be. So they're pretty cool looking. All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation this evening. We appreciate it. And if you have time and want to stick around for the breakout rooms, that would be great as well.